Hey, um, I'm in a different room now. I have recently moved. This is the third making Vattu video essay appendix. I'm going to talk. I mean, a lot of what I've been talking about in these has been sort of colliding with um, being at the end of this thing and how it's making me think really differently and kind of open my brain up to what I've been doing differently. But I, in particular, have been thinking a lot about like how should I have approached this thing in 2010, or what sorts of things would I have benefited by knowing. Um, I don't want to build up like any regret narrative about it, and I don't think I'm really inclined to. Um, but but yeah, I don't know. I'm running into the end of it, and it's exciting. It's mostly an exciting feeling. First thing, I wish I had maintained more of an interest and grounding in comics as a medium. Vatu, I think, proceeds mostly out of interests in like I guess like history and politics, and a lot of it is just trying to be a prose novel. Most of the stories that I have most connected with have been prose, and I was sort of frustrated at comics comics' inability to make something that felt like it was on the same order of scale and complexity as a prose novel. Um, I think that was kind of a guiding principle for the entire book, and I never really thought about it. But I would like to. I mean, as I can think about like a life after this project, I have been kind of intensely reconnecting with comics as such, um, as a medium with its own particular strengths and its own history, and I want to, I don't know, internalize that more deeply instead of just slipping into thinking of comics as just the medium that's available to tell the story I want to tell. Second thing, more conscious engagement with scale and serialization. A lot of these are kind of abstract, and I don't exactly know how I would like actualize them, but I think I don't know. That's how I operate. Just build up a bunch of abstractions until they emerge in some productive direction, hopefully. Um, that recent intensification of interest in comics as such that I've had has also led me to think about how deeply serialization has been a part of the medium in its entire history and in all of the different, you know, all of the different parts of the world in which it's become a firmly entrenched medium. Um, this has made me kind of aware of how I came into the medium in the mid 2000s, very excited by a kind of ascendant new graphic novel form, um, and with it the implicit idea that the cohesive, not serialized story is the ultimate story and the better, more prestigious um, form for a story in comics to take. You can sort of see this transition, and it's just intensified in a lot of ways. You can sort of see this transition in like those those few big graphic novels that were out there and that were talked about before, as I remember it, before the medium took off in the particular way that it did in the mid aughts and after. Like, look at people would talk about like Watchmen or Mouse as like the graphic novels you have to read, but those were initially serialized stories, and you buy the book of it, and there's this attitude, I think, that like you'll have to forgive the fact that this was initially serialized. Now it's a novel. There's an embarrassment about it, and there's this idea that it's better if it's not serialized. I think I'm exaggerating a little or generalizing a little. Where was I? Anyway, I'm becoming more aware of how particular the perspective, particular of a perspective that is, the perspective that valorizes the cohesive novel type comic book. Um, so yeah, I'm always going to be excited about a big expansive story, I think, but I think I would have benefited from a more active engagement with serialization. Vattu was serialized online, but I always did it as just like a graphic novel, and these are the pages of it, and the individual units of it are kind of either incomprehensible or just totally insubstantial because because I didn't foreground serialization in a way that I would like to. It's a problem I want to rectify. Third thing, more earnest engagement with fantasy. Vattu is very grounded and about character psychology and historical happenings. That is what it is, like essentially. But it's sad almost to have distanced myself from the flashier things offered by the traditions it's working in. And I give way less of a shit now about making something tacky or overly genre or over the top than I did when I started. Fourth thing, more room to move stylistically and conceptually. Uh, I was so concerned with consistency in, narrative texture and in drawing style. And that is what Vattu is this like cohesive thing to the best of my ability. But it feels in retrospect like kind of locking myself into certain conventions and maybe stunting my approach to storytelling somehow. Also, the question of setting, like it's claustrophobic almost to work with this one city for so long, um, especially after sort of getting my footing in the medium, doing these uh, rambling like quest narratives. But that is what it is. It is what it is. Last thing, better focus and confidence broadly. Vattu sometimes became a grind to work on. I was on autopilot sometimes, and I was often dividing my attention too much. A lot of that was materially necessary, I think, because it makes sense to. I don't have a guarantee that I'll make a certain amount of money, and it makes sense to sort of diversify. Or it apparently made sense. Fortunately, I am living a lot more cheaply now than I did then. I think. Um, I wish I'd been able to take Vattu more seriously as the main thing more often, as like the engine that made every other thing in my career over that period possible. But it got done at least. Part of this also is that I think I'm wrapping my head around like confidence in something like this, not as not as just a belief that the thing will happen in exactly the way that I imagine, and that it'll be done, and that it'll be great, and that I'll be able to sustain myself doing it, but just to operate like just to push forward with it as optimistically as possible. Not optimistic that you're going to land at the ultimate utopian conclusion, but just optimistic in that every step has to be a step forward. So just do the thing and take it seriously. Have confidence in it. Like believe that it could be something, and that you can do something that is yours and that was made from a place of real uh, belief and honesty. Because I don't know, it's never gonna. If you set up an idea of success that's like an accomplishment of one specific thing that's often not even remotely in your control, then that just seems miserable to me. So all these things are like positive and negative things. As I said, Vatu is essentially defined by all of these kind of constricting circumstances, and it couldn't have existed any other way. This is how it existed. I could not have done it over any other time span, or without dividing my focus, or in any other way. I don't think. I mean, I didn't do it any other way, so I couldn't have done it any other way, right? It is what it is, and it could be nothing else. And I feel like one person making something like this that's this big, it's going to be constricted, it's going to be imperfect somehow. Um, hmm. I don't talk about this very much. Well, I don't think that like, people talk about like ideas, like you hold this idea in your heart, this perfect crystal, and then eventually you'll get to the point in your life or in your schedule where you can execute upon the idea. But um, but it's not the same at 34 than it is at 22, and it should not be, because the work that you're doing is like a part of your life. You're living through the work. Um, that's the beginning of a thought. I I don't know. I'm happy with this thing. I'm at the point now. I have one scene left to draw and two scenes left to color. I have like 16. There's 16 pages left total to go up on the site. Um, I'm arranging. I'm setting up like a couple of like streamed after party things at which I will air these previously Patreon only video essays. Not really a party vibe in these in these video essays, but whatever. I have moved recently. This is my new studio. I'll walk you around it in a second. And it's funny how all these things like line up, right? I Near the end of this comic, I'm I'm all of a sudden moved after a very long time, and I also might be getting a job once a week teaching a course in comics, which is hilarious and frankly unthinkable. But that's where we're at. Thank you. Goodbye.